Hello, and welcome to Fresh Blood, a podcast about killing it in the age of ageism, where we prove that new blood does not necessarily equal young blood. Here to discuss what it takes to have continued success through life, I'll be your host, Jolie Downs. With over 20 years of executive recruiting experience, I've learned how much we can grow and be inspired by other people's stories. I'm excited to share that with you here on Fresh Blood. Today, we are speaking with Casey Stubbs. Casey started his career in the military, spending 9 years with the U.S. Army and being deployed overseas for many of those years. When he left the military, he took a laborer role for a few years before he went on to found Winner's Edge Trading, a trading education business. He has since gone on to found Crawford Media Solutions, which is a financial traffic to advertisers, and trading strategy guides, providing simple strategies for traders in the market. He is also the host of How to Trade It podcast. Casey, first, I want to thank you for your service to our country. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And now I'm really excited to hear how you went from laborer to starting your own trading education business company. Please tell us more about your story.
Okay, sure. Thanks for having me on the show, by the way. Excited to be here. That was in 2008. I got out of the military in 2005. And so to really get the full story, you have to go back until I was 16. And I grew up a computer nerd. And that was in the 80s when computers were kind of new. And my aunt worked at Intel, and she taught me a lot about computers and would bring computers home. Like she'd have like parts and stuff that they would get rid of. And so she'd take the spare parts and teach us how to put computers together.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was. It was a really good skill to learn. And I had no idea how good of a skill it was. But in the early 90s, my dad, who was always investing in stocks, found out that stock trading was going online. And so he had absolutely zero computer experience. And so I was probably 16, and he had asked me to help him get the stocks system set up on the computer. And so when I did that, I taught him everything I knew about computers. And so he got computer literate. And in that process, I learned a lot about stocks. And that's when I got started in the markets. So I was always investing. The whole 9 years I was in the military, I was investing. And even when I was a laborer, I was investing. But in 2008, the economy went downhill. I could not get a job in the markets. And so I combined my two skills of computers and internet with trading to start a website just to see how well that would go. And then after about doing that for a year, I didn't ever have to go back to work again.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Well, how inspiring too, especially timing wise with what we're going through right now, that you took those two skill sets of yours and you transformed it into this new business. That is fascinating. What has been the continued path to your success? Because since then you've just grown and gotten better. So tell us some of your secrets.
So the biggest secret for growing and being successful is just having the desire to do it and to really push. So I set a lot of goals. I'm a very proactive person. I'm always doing self-education, taking training courses, having mentors, working at improving myself. And so the reason I grow my business every year is because I really work hard at it. And that's my desire. So I would say the biggest secret to success is just want it, and then have mile markers and measurement tools to track your success, to see if you're accomplishing your goals or not, and then just keep moving forward.
I love it. You continued to make yourself better, and that's what helped make all of your companies better. And you're absolutely right. You have to want it. I mean, if you don't want it, you're not going to go after it. You're not going to spend all of that time and dedication to make the things happen. So you have to want it. And I like what you said as far as really setting those goals. You need to know what you want to get to, but you also need to know the mile markers on how you're going to get there. So that's really, really good and something to be thinking about. What are those steps that we need to make in order to get to the overall goal? I mean, you've done a lot of things. So you've started a couple of companies. I know you have a newsletter as well. What do you feel has been your greatest success, and what have you learned from it?
So, my greatest success in financial education, and it's more specifically trading. So, finance education is how to manage your money, and that's really important. Everybody needs to know that. But trading is kind of like, okay, I'm going to buy this stock and I'm going to sell this stock, or you don't have to just trade stocks, you can trade other things. But I think the most successful thing that I've done is have a track record of actually teaching people how to do this and teaching people how to have success, because my ultimate goal is to take as many people to this place of financial success that I possibly can. So for me, when the business hits goals, that's great. I'm trying to do that. But my ultimate goal is to get as many people to have success as possible. So that was what I would say would be the most successful thing I've done.
I love it. Are you working with people who are already involved in trading, or do you work with people who are new to it as well?
I work with people who are brand new and also with people who are stuck. My daughter is working for me now, but as her boss, I force her to take out money out of her paycheck, invest it, and put it in the stock market. And so she's been doing that for a year. She just got out of high school.
Oh, wow.
And she's got a 50% return on her investment so far in her first
That's
year.
amazing. That's
And
amazing.
she's a rookie. So, if she can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, that's a great case study right there. I might be calling you Casey. So now, what about the flip side? I mean, what have been some of the greater struggles that you've gone through, and how you've overcome those?
So being in business is really tough. You got to manage a lot of different things, and cash flow wise, if you don't have payroll, or if your a bank account's low, or sometimes you have to pay your employees and you might not get paid. And so cash flow challenges have been up there, dry spells, whereas you not give up even though some things have been down and out. That's definitely one thing. And then another thing that is really challenging is actually learning how to delegate and to use and grow and lead your teams well. Because as you grow, you find out that you become your own bottleneck, because you're used to doing things a certain way, and you have to actually change and start utilizing your team, learning how to manage a team, learning how to delegate. And so that has been a really big challenge for me.
Oh, that's a big one. What would you say that you've learned is the best way to manage your team?
So the best thing I've found is actually getting the right people on board. And what I do is I have a really strong vision. As I mentioned, I want to help people, right? So I find people in line with that vision, but then it goes even further. I want people that agree with that vision, but I have to find the right kind of person, people that are proactive, people that don't need me to babysit them. And it's hard to find people like that. They're kind of rare. And so having a big vision and learning how to get those right people and keeping the wrong people away is another big one.
Oh, isn't that a big one for a lot of things too? I like that. Now, you mentioned the struggle of cash flow when you have your own business. And this is something that anyone who has their own business, I'm sure, has at least experienced at some point. What are your methods to dealing with that when you go through a time of limited cash flow? What do you do to help counteract that?
Well, there's two really big ones that help me out a lot. So the first thing is your tracking. I've learned a lot about tracking my finances, because now, I've been doing this 11 years. So now I get a daily report put into my hand of what the numbers are. For the first 8 years, I had no clue, right? So now it doesn't happen quite as often because I have a big pulse. I have a good pulse on what's happening. So tracking is the first thing. The second thing is just looking at your expenses, right? So, okay, cash flow is a little tight. What can I cut out? And amazingly, in your own personal life, and it's even bigger in your business, from any given time, I can always cut out probably 10% or more out of my budget when things get tight. And then the third thing is, okay, with business, we have the ability to generate revenue. Okay, where things are tight, we cut back. What can we do now to increase cash flow? And kind of have like an emergency meeting and say, okay, we got to bump cash flow this week. What can we do? And everybody will pitch in, come up with ideas, and we can try to give ourselves a little cash flow boost when we need it.
Great. Kind of looking at those percentages, spending the time where you make the most money.
That's really an important thing. Looking at your business and seeing what is the most fruitful, and then putting your time in that. And I have taken that to a really extreme level and probably need to continue getting it even more extreme. But I look at my own time. I look at, okay, what did I do in a day? What activities are the most fruitful? What activities are not really yielding anything? And then I personally trim that stuff out of my schedule. And then what I do the same thing with my employees. I look at their schedules, and I do that same thing with the employees that are productive. I try to pour into the ones that are productive and the ones that aren't. And so the secret for getting those things out of my schedule, the things that were not productive, was to get myself a really good assistant. And I got a really good assistant. And then at the beginning of the day, I just hand all that stuff that's going to take up my time and not produce a lot and just give it over to them. It's important things. There's things that need to be done, but they're not generating a lot of revenue.
Oh, that's really good. You brought up something really important there, because you just talked about being aware, really looking at your day and seeing what's working, what's not. And it struck me that this is something that most of us are likely not doing, because it's just so easy to get caught up in your day to day, doing what you need to do day in and day out, not really looking at what is making a difference or not. So that is something that we should all spend a little bit more time on doing, maybe a little more awareness on what our days look like. I mean, awareness will provide clarity, and clarity is power. So that's a really good suggestion. Thank you, Casey.
Sure.
Now, what do you believe is key to continued success throughout life?
So key to continued success is having a really good purpose and a vision. I've seen a lot of people fade away because they lose sight of the big picture. Maybe they're involved in work and they might lose their job, or they're not working anymore. And then all of a sudden their vision disappears. And then they start to struggle and they go downhill. They struggle through depression and a lot of different things. So for me, I have a family and personal vision and a company vision. I try to put them all together so that I always have a purpose. I have a lot of energy. And the reason I do is because I love going to work every day. I have purpose, I have vision, I have goals, I have dreams, and I'm just going to give everything I have to try to go after them. And that's what keeps me going.
I love it. So you get back to your why. That's what you're doing. You're staying solid in your why.
I think that's critical.
And I think that's another thing that a lot of us don't pay enough attention to.
Yeah, we just do what we need to do, but we don't know why. And it takes some searching to find out.
And it's the most important question.
Yeah, why am I doing what I do? I have no idea.
It's just so easy to be reactive. We're all reactive. It's much harder to start being proactive about our life, and that's where it starts.
Right, it is, and it goes back even to that time thing where I'm spending my time. It's just reactive. My biggest thing in the past was just, okay, I'm here at work. I'm going to jump in and start working, rather than being disciplined. And I'm terrible at discipline. That's why I have all these other outside people in my life. But rather than being disciplined, I just jump in and start working. And the next thing you know, I've been working on who knows what, and half the day's gone.
Yep, exactly. I want to take us back a little bit to the beginning of you starting your own business in 2008, because as I'm thinking about it, it really is a pivotal story for what people are dealing with right now. I'm sure you went through a lot of emotional turmoil, mental turmoil, if you will, just trying to figure things out. What was that like for you during that process of building this and trying to make it happen? And is there any advice that you would give someone who is maybe in a similar situation and thinking about some of these ideas that they can put forth?
It was very challenging because as a family man, I've got a lot of responsibility. And so when you don't have the ability to provide, that's really tough, right? So especially when I lost the job, but then I kept trying over and over again to get work. So I started this website and company, but it was actually after failing to get jobs for a long period of time. It wasn't like this was the first thing that I came up with. And I'd always been doing businesses on the side. So I didn't realize that I actually was an entrepreneur at heart because I was always doing businesses. But so the thing that I would say that's the most important is, yes, it was really tough, but I knew that I had to provide. So I never stopped trying. So that's one thing. Another thing is that a lot of times bad situations that look really bleak and terrible are actually opportunities. And so even though this was something that was bad, I look back on it as being one of the best things that ever happened to me. So it was painful. It was bad. It wasn't fun, but the end result was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Cause I was like 32.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to myself, man, I feel like I retired at 32 because that was the day that I get to do what I want when I want.
Oh God, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love it. You know what? And let's just say that's what we all have to look forward to. All right. If we're sitting there struggling, this story that Casey's sharing right now is a story that I have heard over and over and over again in the 20 years of recruiting. Everyone who goes through the struggle, who goes through that pain and worry and despair, every single one of them ends up exactly where they're supposed to be. So let's all just hold on to that as we go through this time.
Well, I would say though, just as an asterisk, if they continue on, because if you lose hope, then you end up getting stuck. And I've seen a lot of people that get stuck too.
You are 100% correct. Thank you for that, because you are right. You cannot get stuck. You have to stay positive. You have to keep moving on, keep feeding your brain with the positive self-talk, feeding your confidence, and moving forward. Otherwise, you're right. You're going to get stuck. So have you ever experienced ageism? I'm curious because I feel like your industry is one that would lend itself towards respect the more experience you have, but this is an assumption.
So I'm self-employed, so I don't really have to worry about that because, I don't have a boss, but I do. I hire people that are older than me, and I haven't personally experienced in my business, but I like to hire older people because I do look at their wisdom and I want to learn from their experience. And, as far as age goes, I really think that it's a mindset. I have some really awesome older people that have been my mentors that are still crushing it in their 70s, 80s. And I just spent this weekend with my grandmother who's 90 years old, and she's so young at heart. It's unbelievable.
I love it. It's all about
it
the energy,
inspires
right?
me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is inspiring. That's how we should all be, is continuing like that with that strong energy. What advice would you give someone who is currently struggling right now, unable to find that next step, not sure what they should do? They keep sending out their resumes, they're not getting calls. What advice would you give them?
So the big thing is to know your why. Okay. Because I would say, well, you just got to persevere and keep trying. And that's what I did without really knowing my why at the time. It took me a long time to find out. So that's the hardest thing to find out. But if you do know why you're doing what you're doing, it gives you the ability to push through a lot of difficult circumstances and a lot of failure. So, when you're out there looking for your job, know what kind of job you want, know why you want to contribute, and really go after it. And it's discouraging when you know that you're the perfect candidate for that job. But you got to remember that usually when you are putting up a job, there might only hire one person for that position. And there's a lot of competition, and it might not just be the fit. So just keep going and keep moving forward. The last position I hired for, and I did hire someone that was older than me, but there were 350 applicants for that one position.
Yeah.
And, that's a lot of competition.
A lot of competition. And there's a lot of people you're not even seeing, I would imagine, out of those 350 people.
Right. I actually only considered 10.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just the nature of what it is. And so what you're saying is dead on. You cannot take it personally. You cannot let it get you down. You need to keep staying positive and moving forward, know your why. But you're absolutely right. These positions have a ton of competition. And when you don't get the call back, most of the time, it really has nothing to do about you.
There just was somebody that was maybe a better fit, or maybe they just didn't see it.
Yeah.
But I also think that just be a real value adder, just be a person that wants to add value in my life. That's one of my big big mission points is no matter where I'm at, whatever situation I'm in, I want to add value.
Yeah, well, it's the notion of when you're of service to others, you're actually the most in service to yourself.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, before we go, I'd love to hear, do you have any advice for people in investing right now, since this is your bag, and we are in a very unique situation, if you will? Is there any advice you give listeners overall for investing?
Well, it's hard to give generic advice just because there's so many different strategies. But I would say the biggest thing for me is to go after solid investments that have been performing well. And usually the ones that are performing well will continue to perform well, especially in the stock market. You find good, proven, solid companies and then just ride their success. When you're investing in a company, you're investing in the leadership of that company, you're investing in their mission, and as long as they're really being productive and doing good, the stock's going to do good and you're going to do pretty well. As soon as that changes, as soon as it starts going downhill and they may have lost focus and vision, then you just get off of it and then find the next big winner.
I like it. And I like the advice of finding companies that are doing good. Because you're right. The companies that are doing good are going to continue to do good, and they're going to continue to grow and do well because people are going to support them.
Yeah, and just another piece of advice is tracking. Right, like I talked about tracking with your awareness of your investments. Track every penny, track every success, every failure. Write it all down, and then look at it. And that awareness causes change and improvement in your performance.
How often do you track, or do you tell people to track every?
I track every day.
Yeah, I would imagine. So before we go, are there any other pieces of advice or things that I haven't asked that you wanted to talk about?
Well, just that it's always a good thing to keep a vision in your mind. And I know I mentioned that, but it's just, if you're living for a purpose, it makes all the difference in the world. And I absolutely love every single day, and just having that attitude and that joy really helps keep me going.
Do you feel like you stay happy because you're so solid in your why and in your service of what you're doing?
That has really helped me out and has kept me going for sure. Yes.
Is there anything else that helps you stay happy in your chosen field?
Knowing the impact that I have for those around me. It's nice to be able to build a business and see all of the lives that you're able to change, both with the people that you're employing. You see the positive influence in their lives, and also through your customers.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the impact that you're having with your customers is something that is felt and seen very clearly in the finances. So it makes a huge difference in people's lives. I am very intrigued, and I know that I'm going to be checking out your podcast, Casey. I can use some help myself. So I'm looking forward to learning more in your podcast. Thank you so much for spending time to talk with us about your story and what successes look like for you. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I so enjoyed learning more about Casey and his story. He had great insights to share. Casey feels the biggest secret to continued success is the desire, the wanting of that success. And he is so right. Intelligence, creativity, ideas, these are nothing without the drive and the ambition that brings them to light. You have to set goals for yourself and then give yourself mile markers to track your success. And then you need to go after it. This is great advice. Well, we all want to keep our eye on the big picture and the overall vision. It is also important to know what steps you need to make in order to get there. Know what your little wins will look like, and then celebrate those wins along the way. Keep your focus on how far you've come and keep your confidence on a high. Casey also makes sure that he's giving himself continuous self-education. enrolling in training courses, getting himself mentors, and overall working on improving himself on a day-to-day basis. This is one of the most powerful things that you can do to make a positive impact on your life. Continually making yourself better. How have you been feeding your mind lately? Make the choice to invest in yourself every day and watch your life transform. He shared with us his greatest success, which for him is teaching others how to have success. How great is that? Seeing others have success is what gives him the greatest satisfaction. He is helping others live their best life, and in turn, he is living his. When he spends his time helping others, when you spend your time being a teacher, your overall impact can really never be measured. Being of service to others really is the best way to be of service to yourself. Now, Casey shared with us some great overall business advice. He points out the need for successful delegation. You can end up being your own bottleneck. So take a look at the flow of your day, find out where you're of the most value, spend your time on the greater revenue generating needs, and delegate the other work to members on your team. The caveat to that being, hire the right people for your organization. Having a strong vision and finding capable people who are in line and agree with that vision will make a huge difference in the success of your team. And I can attest, after all of this recruiting that I've been doing, having a well-working team is like magic in a company. He also urges us to track everything. Get a daily report on your finances and make sure you know where your money is going. If things are tight, you'll know where you can make some needed cuts. Either way, bringing awareness to your days will help in both good and difficult times ahead. Casey suggests that we move through our days being a value adder, someone who adds value to any situation we find ourselves in. No matter where you are, who you're with, or what you're doing, you want to add value. What a beautiful and fruitful way to move through life. Once again, when you're in service to others, you are in service to yourself. Let's all move through our days thinking of ways that we can provide value to those around us. The world would be a changed place. I loved what Casey shared as his overall key to success. He said the most important thing is having a clear purpose and vision. Keeping sight of your big picture, keeping sight of your why. What is your family vision? Your company vision? Your personal vision? Have your purpose. Get in touch with your dreams. Know your goals, and then go after them. That's what keeps Casey going, continuously marking out his goals and then going after reaching them. He shared with us his difficult time. He was the family man looking to provide for his family, and he was struggling to find work, a situation many of us can relate to. He went through a tough time, as were so many others. While he was looking for work, he also looked at his personal talents and found ways to create new opportunities. The project that he started while looking for viable work turned into a wildly successful career. He had no idea it would turn into anything. So while you're looking for work, what are your value adds? What can you offer others that could provide benefit? Get creative. Build something. Start something. Volunteer. You never know what doors might open. As Casey points out, a lot of times bleak situations can be opportunities in disguise. When he went through his difficult time, it was incredibly hard and it was painful. But without that experience, he would have never launched his website, which led to his successful career path. This is my wish for anyone currently experiencing a tough time. that you too will find your golden opportunity. So take Casey's advice. Know your why. Know why you're doing what you're doing. When you know your why, it will give you the ability to push through a lot of difficult circumstances and failures. Know why you want to contribute and then go after it. Do not let the process get you down. Do not take it personally. Even when it gets discouraging, keep your head up, keep your positive self-talk, and keep moving forward. Do not give up. Live for your purpose, and it will make all the difference in the world. Wishing you all joy in the work that you do. Until next time. Thank you for spending time with us on Fresh Blood. If you love this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, or giving us a review. I'm looking forward to connecting with you again on the next episode.